Hello, everyone, and welcome to the OtherWorldsGG Community Cast. This is episode number 1. I am Table for 2. You guys can call me Hunter if you would like. OtherWorldsGG is a new community that we are starting, something that we've been working on. It's a passion project of mine, as well as my partners in crime here that are on the podcast with me, specifically Mellified and Alien Pickle. Mellified, yes, there he is. Mellified and I have a strong sense of games preservation and retro games, and that's going to be a huge portion of what we do with our community. It's something that we're really passionate about, but it is not limited to that. It's going to include gaming of all kinds and storytelling and world exploring of all kinds. So it's not just limited to games in general, but games are definitely the core of the community that we're building. But how about you guys go ahead and introduce yourselves? I mean, we got, like I said, we got Mellified, we got Alien Pickle. Tell us a little bit about yourselves.
This is Mellified. I am a lifelong gamer. I've been fortunate enough to work professionally in the games industry for the last 25 years or so. On the engineering side, building big multiplayer systems, although kind of took that experience and now I work at Twitch doing similar things for Twitch's website and keeping everything running there. So definitely excited to be working with you guys and talking about games every week. Really exciting.
Yeah, I'm Alien Pickle, otherwise known as Jim. Been an edgelord since 1996. Is that my qualifications?
Oh
yeah,
boy,
something like that. Yeah, there you go.
No, I did some game press stuff back in the day, and got out of that in about 2003, and it had basically just turned into like a hobby thing at that point, and then went into podcasting and stuff, and did a bad movie thing for several years, and then did a space game show for a while, and now I'm doing this.
Well, when you say bad movie thing, does that mean you were making bad movies, or you were?
It was a show about. It was actually called badmoviepodcast.com. I don't know who owns the domain now, so don't go there. But yeah,
malware detected.
Yeah, exactly. But it was interesting. It was kind of like the same sort of movies that like Mystery Science Theater dealt with, but we didn't talk over the movie. We would just watch the movie and then talk about it afterwards. So if you ever watched Red Letter Media's Best of the Worst, it was basically that format about 10 years before they started doing it. So pretty much that.
OtherWorldsGG is definitely, like I mentioned earlier in the cast, is a labor of love that Mellified and I had in the back of our minds, and we kind of came together collaboratively and had similar goals in mind for it. And since Jim and I are really good casting friends, we've done the podcasting thing and gaming thing for a while, we decided to go ahead and extend the invitation for him to come along and be a part of the party. And so there you go. And that's where we're kind of at.
You want to talk about Gilded and why we chose?
Yeah, sure,
weird,
absolutely.
Up and coming platform.
Yeah, I would like to know that too, because it's kind of strange.
Absolutely, and the joke here too is like, this is our episode 1, but it's our third time attempting this recording. So, but so Gilded.gg is the website, but Gilded is a competitor to Discord. They launched earlier in the year 2020 as a direct competitor to Discord, because while Discord is great, they're moving away from the gaming-centric mindset to a more broad open platform, say kind of like your Zooms or your Microsoft Teams and stuff like that. And while these platforms in and of themselves are great, when looking to build something new from the ground up, it was something that Mellified and I took an interest in because we saw the potential that Gilded had. some of that potential, including things like building out forums within Gilded, building out calendaring and scheduling for your community, document collaboration, all kinds of tools like that. And Gilded being new to these things, they're still working on their platform. So there's still, some features like the video sharing and stuff like that are in beta, but they're growing rather rapidly, and they're making improvements on a fairly regular basis. And we're pretty excited about that, because as a new platform, as a new community that we're trying to endeavor to build, we figured why not start with something that's also new in and of itself, and kind of grow with the platform as our community grows. The some of the key features that we really loved about Gilded was the calendaring and forum like integrations, so that you can actually, and so instead of actually having to go out and build a website and pay for all this hosting and pay for the forums and those kinds of things, and you need, it's separated away from the centralized communication of the group. Gilded has all of that built in together, and we absolutely loved everything about that, and a lot of the features that they're working on or have already implemented. So it would take several bots and a lot of customization and overhaul just to get anything remotely similar to a function through Discord. And this isn't to be a slam against Discord. We're technically using Discord right now for part of the recording aspects of this. But that's not to say that we couldn't use Gilded as our voice chat for while we're doing the recording. Hindsight's 2020. I guess we could have done it over there, but yeah, we'll see. But moving on though, like we've definitely had some interesting stuff with like the games platforms out there right now. We've had a new generation of game platforms launched with the Xbox Series and the PS5. I would love to get my hands on an Xbox Series X. I have not really been a huge PlayStation fan, but I think of anybody here, Mellified, you at least have one, if not both of these platforms. Is that correct?
Well, I certainly was, neck deep in the PlayStation ecosystem with the PS4. Prior to that, I was kind of a little bit of everything, but I usually end up with one primary, and that was PS4 at the beginning of last gen. And I get to say it now, last gen, the old stuff. So with the return of Microsoft in a real powerful way, the Xbox One X really won me back over to the Xbox ecosystem. Might be sound a little crazy, but I have 7 Xbox Ones in the house. Between my kids, 3 boys, my wife and I each have one. I have one in my office, and then we have one in our RV for when we travel. So
like you could make like an Xbox Beowulf cluster and supercompute.
Well, it's funny you say that, because I'm trying to think of what I'm going to do now, because I've upgraded. I bought 2 Series X's, and so I've got a couple extra Xboxes lying around that I'm trying to figure out what to do with. But my hope is to continue to invest in the Xbox ecosystem, and I really feel like that has paid off in a surprising way over the last year, in that Game Pass, Xbox Game Pass Ultimate. My kids have gaming laptops, pretty recent. I have a gaming laptop. My wife took over my old desktop, and we each have Xboxes. So we're kind of foot in both worlds. But with Game Pass Ultimate, we have access to a pretty hefty library of games on both sides of the fence. And so at least for the foreseeable future, I anticipate we'll be doing a lot of Xbox. And I don't know, Hunter, do you want me to get into like why Xbox versus PC? I know that's always a big question I get from my
yes, let's do it, because I have opinions.
Well, I mean, you definitely can. I'm kind of, I wouldn't say I'm Xbox over PC or PC over Xbox. I kind of feel like my shoe is in just like the Microsoft door. So like I that to me I feel like my Xbox One X is like a companion to my PC. It's like it accents what I do on it personally. Like that's just kind of like how I view it. But by all means, let's hear it.
I know for me, the probably the biggest consideration there is, you know, I can just sit down and play, and I have my PC hooked up to my TV in the family room, same as my Xbox. Um, but I swear to God, you know, we were joking earlier about some troubles with the podcast, and you know, Jim made the comment, "Oh, you need to upgrade your NVIDIA drivers," and like that's just normal life on the PC side, but you know, on the Xbox, like every once in a while I get a dashboard update, or maybe I have to download a game update that the system didn't do for me. But by and large, beyond that, the thing just works. And, you know, particularly voice chat party system is just simple, it's easy. And we're talking about, you know, the shattering of the Discord gilded, you know, that space. Well, guess what? On Xbox, there's only one choice that anybody uses because it's built into the system. It's just there. So, you know, I get on the Xbox, I can find people in multiplayer, I can play multiplayer, I can chat. The sync games save sync is universal and automatic between any console. If I log in, it'll download my save game for the whatever game I'm playing. I can download my games as well. So I love that simplicity. I love that just, you know, pick up the controller and go. On the PC side, I love cheating. I love mods. Like there are games that I have strong opinions about which ring of hell the game designer should go to when they die, because not that I want them to die, of course, but just in terms of I hate the way that this particular part of some game works. And with, you know, mods and cheats, I can get around that. I can play the game the way I want to play it. And I really love that control on the PC side. I just hate a lot of things about Windows. I hate the management of it and the maintenance of it. So, you know, I still haven't figured out what's wrong with my Punkbuster. You know, I have some process that is hooking the Punkbuster service when it runs, and that prevents Windows from deleting and re-adding the service, which apparently is required for Punkbuster to work. And I have like zero idea of how to figure that out, other than anecdotal, you know, Reddit posts from the last 5 years to try to find something relevant. So that stuff drives me crazy on the PC side. So it's definitely love-hate for me with Windows, where there's definitely things I don't like about Xbox, but by and large, I can just play my games, which ultimately at the end of the day is what I want to do, right?
Yeah, so
I skipped the whole the Xbox One ecosystem. I had a couple of 360s because the first one red ringed, and then I bought the Slim, you know, the black one.
Yep.
That was, I like that one a lot. Haven't had it hooked up for a long time though, because it's just like, yeah, I'm in front of the PC, you know. But the case that I have for the Xbox One X though is Microsoft's Game Pass, because I pay for it on the PC, which means all those things that are on Xbox I can just sit in the living room and play. Mm-hmm. So that would be a nice thing, and because of the cross-platformness of it. But the other thing that is the use case is not so much the modern games, but it's things that are like the old Xbox, like original Xbox games that they sell on the store. Like I desperately want to play Crimson Skies again, and I
have it. I have it, dude.
Talked you into it. How do you like that?
I love it. So here's the deal. Here's and for anyone who's listening, if you have like an older console like an Xbox 360 that you still love, but maybe you have been drawn more towards the PC platform, the interesting thing about some of these newer platforms like the Xbox One, you know, series and the Xbox series of Xboxes, And even the PlayStation, I think PlayStation 5 has this too, where you can like stream your gameplay to the PC. That's a nice feature, and it's a cool feature, and I like it. But it's not necessarily for everybody, because not everybody might have a good network setup or have their network set up properly to make that function in a good way. It's a little bit of an investment, but I highly recommend that if you have an old console that you would love to play, but you're at your computer a lot, invest in an Elgato HD60S. And I say that because the software does a 1-to-1 pass through. So as it's hooked up, like I don't even excuse me, I don't even have my my Elgato hooked up to an output of like a TV. It's just sitting there as an input for my Xbox One X, and then the USB 3.0 connection is right into my computer, and then I use the Elgato software, which can go full screen, to play my console on my computer. And I can, if I wanted to, like, capture that for Twitch, it makes that super easy. But it's a 1-to-1, and it looks good because it's HD, it's 60 frames a second. It looks really good, and it plays really good. So anything that's like in my store that I want to get and play, or anything that I want to download through Game Pass, that's like the console versions. And some things on Game Pass are only console, and some things are only PC. Some are both. So I mean, it's like the best of both worlds. And the nice thing about it running through an app onto my computer is I can just minimize that screen, and then it's just like any other app on my computer. So it's like I'm minimizing my Xbox while I'm playing. And so it keeps it nice that way.
I will point out that for those people like me who have a Mac in the household, the Elgato software works on the Mac, so you can have an actual gaming experience on your Mac while you're doing stuff, which is really nice.
Hey, Mellified, get out.
Yeah. I'm stuck with the Mac for work. So I that's what's on my desk. And actually, you got me thinking, like, oh, I could hook my second Xbox Series X up to the Elgato, have it running through the Mac, so I don't have to switch back and forth inputs. That actually would be kind of cool.
Yeah, and it's really nice because you can adjust the volume, and then, like, if I can be playing my Xbox and be sitting here on Discord on my computer even. And because I'm a heavy PC user, I also have like 4 screens, and I'm constantly multitasking, so like I can have Discord up on one screen, and I can have my Xbox up on like the center screen as I'm playing something and chatting with you guys. The other thing that and to Mellified's point earlier about, like, sometimes the PC just breaks on you. For whatever reason, Forza Horizon 4 just will not work for me anymore. I've tried uninstalling, reinstalling, rebooting, updating drivers, rolling back drivers. The game just stopped working for me completely. And so I was just like, well, I've got my Xbox here. I'm just going to uninstall it from my computer and call it a day, and I'm just going to play on my Xbox. And it's just because it's all right here. And that got me thinking even further. I was like, well, what games do I have on my computer that I play on a regular basis that are also on my Xbox? And I was like, well, shoot. I could just migrate a bunch of this stuff over and free up a whole bunch of space on my computer and just not worry about it and just play off of my Xbox. So, and like I said, it's just a nice compliment to in my mind, I think the Xbox is an amazing companion console to a PC player. You do have to do a little bit of investment, I feel like, to do a really good setup, because while all the in-home streaming thing is nice and it can work, especially if you've got really good Wi-Fi or like a really solid wired connection, it can work. But then you're beholden to that network connection to be reliable for your continued play, and sometimes that can get cut out. And the other awkward and weird thing about the streaming portion is the store doesn't work. So like you can't make any purchases, or you can't get anything through the store if you're doing the game stream from the console to the PC. As where if you use something like an Elgato, you totally have access to the full gambit.
Hey, so you were talking before about streaming from the PC to your phone, and from the PC to your Shield tablet and that stuff. Is the Xbox gonna just stream straight to a phone? Can you do that with it now?
So yeah. Yes and no. So like you definitely can. So like Microsoft is going through a couple of phases right now. So they definitely have a few things kind of like that they're working on. Their game cloud, the game cloud, or I guess they call it their X Cloud, which is their Game Pass, essentially works. They have a Game Pass app, and you can just stream right from Game Pass to your phone, or and play that way. However, they did have their Xbox app, which also allows you to connect to your Xbox and stream the Xbox to your phone as well. But that's kind of like been funky as of late. It hasn't, like, from my experience, it hasn't been like working quite as well as, say, just like the generic game stream has. But I was able to side load the Game Pass app onto my Nvidia Shield TV, and I can use the Game Pass game stream. And like I was playing Super Lucky's Tale. I was streaming it to my Nvidia Shield in my bedroom, and that worked really well. So I would love to see them add that functionality, like kind of like the console streaming functionality, into one app. I'd like to see one singular app that lets me stream from the cloud or from my console to my devices. But they don't have that right now, so it's kind of in two apps, and the console to device app doesn't work quite as well, in my opinion.
The PC or Xbox Series X to PC streaming is broken right now, unfortunately. The app doesn't support it for whatever reason. Presumably they'll bring it back. HDR support gets really wonky though when you start talking about streaming. So if you have an HDR device on one side or the other, all this kind of goes up in the air as to whether it works or how well it works, unfortunately.
I guess my use case for the Xbox is basically to play stuff in a different room that I'm already playing on the PC, but I want it to actually exist on that console, not just stream it from the PC out to the TV. So it's like we had that discussion the other night that it's like I would prefer, like, if I stream stuff on the PC, that it not actually take over my screen and then stream the screen, but actually just like have a virtual screen that it went to and then just project the virtual screen. That way my PC just looks like it's asleep, but it's actually doing the processing, but it doesn't take the screen to do it.
Well, I see, and part of that conversation we had the other night, though, is that kind of nullifies the whole point of that. Like, if you're going to be in the other room playing that game, then you're not using your PC anyway. And then you brought up the point about, like, well, what if I want somebody else to do it? Well, then, you're going to have another computer that does that. And, like your wife wants to do that, and you just set it up off of her computer to do the same thing.
So what about a central in the house? Like, I just have a PC in the closet, and then wherever I sit down with a gamepad.
I mean, you could set that up. I mean, I've seen people use tutorials on using Amazon services to set up their own quote unquote xCloud for themselves. So essentially, they've set up their own private, like, whatever in the cloud, and they're able to stream games to their computer that way, using like some Steam stuff and some other functionality that way. I don't really recommend that, because that gets a little goofy. And that's not for everybody to do. That's like a tinker kind of thing. If you're into tinkering, then by all means. But
what I'm trying to say is I am the biggest Stadia fan.
No, I highly doubt that. I'm not a Stadia fan. I don't think Stadia as a platform.
I don't think that people would make it like it.
Here's the deal. At the end of the day, Stadia is an interesting concept, but the way Microsoft and these other places are doing it, these are bonus features. Like, people still love having their box to play games off of, right? And to have that box in their room to install the games on, so like they don't always have to be connected to the internet to play games, or it doesn't always have to take up their internet bandwidth, because we still have an internet infrastructure issue in the US, for example. Like, the US internet infrastructure is a weird amalgamation, and I'm not going to get into that on this show, but it is a problem that is justifiable for people who don't always want to be connected to the internet all the time to be streaming gameplay. They still want to spend the money, buy a console, spend $50 on a game or $60 on a game, and then call it a day. Game Pass makes that Game Pass makes that interesting, because you can get access to games and then like download them directly to your box, and then once they're downloaded to your box, you have them on your box and you just play that way.
Well, Game Pass, but you can do that. You can play the games in Game Pass from the cloud. You can play the games you own from the cloud that are enabled. So you have kind of all of those choices with Game Pass. With Stadia, it's basically go buy the game and then we'll let you stream it.
Right, and that game only lives in their ecosystem in the cloud. Like, there's no other way to get access to that game other than using their service to play that game through streaming. And I think that's the thing that bothers people.
Yeah, well, it definitely does, especially with Google's track record of shutting things off with very little notice, because you just theoretically lose that library. But I will go one step further and point out the worst part about Stadia, in my opinion, is that a lot of the multiplayer games that involve, a bunch of other people, the Stadia version, you are only playing with other Stadia players, which means you're playing with, a handful of other people, and based on time zone and when people play, you could be in, for example, Destiny 2 in the tower, which is normally this hub of activity, by your freaking self. And that just wrecks a lot of games in terms of their multiplayer design. So
at least they don't charge you an additional $20 a month to have the multiplayer turned on so that you can play with nobody.
That's true. That's true. But
so
I've never understood with the whole Xbox eco. I mean, it's like now that it's Game Pass plus Xbox Gold or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they've combined all that together.
Yeah, it makes sense, right? There's a value to it. But before, when it was like, oh, you bought the console, now you got to subscribe for however many dollars a year just to have the functionality of multiplayer. I have thought that has always been bullshit.
And, and for what it's worth, though, and I think that's a great point for, like, people back in the day where it was just like, well, I have a PC and I can play all the games I want for free across the internet. It's just like, look at all this stuff, and back in the days of, like, you had all the community run servers, and then, all the bundled games that were coming out for, like, the longest time, where you just had access to all of these games that you could just play with your friends for hours on end without spending a penny. Meanwhile, you had to pay a premium service just to be able to play, like, Halo with your buddies on Xbox. And I think the value feature that you just mentioned with Game Pass. I mean, I have Game Pass Ultimate, and I think it's the best value in gaming. Period. I don't think it. Like, again, it's that companion app it's that companion console to a PC. It's just it plays together so well, in my opinion. So.
Well, and one of the other comparisons that I think is really interesting when it comes to, Xbox versus PC as a gaming platform is using your phone to read ebooks versus using a Kindle device.
Right.
The Kindle is purpose built to read ebooks, the e-ink reader specifically. It is ergonomically shaped for it. It has features specific to the fact that it's all integrated. You can quickly jump to the next book in a series, to the store, and all these things that are just designed because they know when you're there, you're reading, and you're not getting your email. You're not, pulling up Black Friday sales through the web, anything like that. There's something pure about that experience because it's so focused. And similarly, I would argue that playing on Xbox is a more pure gaming experience because that's all you're doing on that device. It doesn't do your taxes. It doesn't let you surf the web. I mean, you can, but no one. If you are surfing the web on your Xbox, please get a computer. You're not checking your email. Like, there's not all those distractions, and so I really enjoy the purity of that, if that makes sense.
And that's a fair argument too. This is what this device is intended, specifically for too. So, like, I get that.
It would be interesting though if the Xbox had, let's say, a Discord app, and then I could actually from the Xbox be in the Discord voice chat with everybody else.
Well, and they've
out
had
there. I'm not talking to you in here.
Yeah, they have some partnerships that way. I mean, your Discord on the server will pull in your Xbox presence. So it'll say if you're playing a game on Xbox, it'll announce that to Discord through a partnership Microsoft and Discord did about 2 years ago. And there was some speculation that maybe Microsoft would buy Discord or would do more integration with it. Given Discord's announcement that they're kind of going in a different direction, maybe that's backburnered. But yeah, it would be interesting to be able to participate in something like a Discord server while you're on your Xbox, because I think that would help bridge the gap there. That said, you can do parties on Windows. You can join Xbox parties and stuff. So
yeah, we did that the other day, Mollified. I had some issues on my end I had to get sorted, but once I sorted them out, it actually worked really well. I was actually shocked.
Well, I was going to say it works great once you get it going. I think the problem is you've got a ton of different audio devices on Windows, and so making sure it's using the right audio device is the thing. Microsoft is also their own worst enemy in that you can do it from not one, not two, but 3 different places on Windows 10, depending on what you've got installed. And from what I can tell, if you do it on one of them, the other 2 don't know about it if you join a party. So
what is that? The Xbox companion app or the Xbox not companion app that actually launches games, or you can do it, say, from the game bar.
Exactly. Yep.
Right.
What is the game bar? I don't have that, but it's just it's a thing. The only thing it ever does to me is oh shit, I hit that thing by mistake. and how do I?
In my opinion, the game bar, I didn't like it at first either, but I've actually grown to appreciate it for what it is, because it's a quick access thing that I can get to for the party system of Windows/Xbox. So that Windows G key, you bring that up, it'll show you your entire friends list through that, and you can also join and request to join party chats or game invites through that. So whenever I've done I think it's either Sea of Thieves or some other stuff, I've done that through the game bar. So the game bar app, I've actually, because it's an overlay, and then you can pin things after that too. So when you bring up the game bar, you can actually pin stuff to your desktop so it doesn't go away when the game bar goes away. So you can see who you're voice chatting with, for example.
Yeah, it's like a minefield, right? I hit Control Z, now my NVIDIA game bar is up.
Any of these you can disable them though.
I know, and then God forbid I'm playing a game using my Xbox controller on the PC, and I hit the Xbox button, and then Steam comes up in Steam Big Picture, and it's stop.
But any and all of these things you can disable and turn off.
I know, but for average person, you have to. It's like whack-a-mole. I have to kill all these things that keep popping up.
Which is you are making my case for why an Xbox if I'm a PC gamer, right there, right?
I will say though, once you get them going and once you get everything configured and customized, it's great, and I love it. Because especially with that conversation that we've had earlier about the the legacy gaming and the retro gaming and stuff like that, we've definitely talked about, we're not advocates for piracy, but we've definitely talked about emulation and games preservation and stuff like that, getting those things functionally working through your PC. Part of a little project that I've done recently is I've been getting my emulation stuff to work through Steam and even through Steam Big Picture or Steam Link, so I can play my emulated stuff via game streaming actually. So, and that actually works really well. So,
now if I could just actually have a Steam app on my game box or on my game box, yeah, that should be what they called it, is the game box. But on the Xbox, if I could launch Steam and then just install my Steam shit on the Xbox, because it is a PC, right? I mean, it's
running Windows essentially under covers. Yeah.
So why couldn't I run any Steam game on that thing other than they don't want me to?
But keep in mind, Microsoft is taking a loss on every Xbox they sell, and the theory is they're going to make that up when you go buy games from them. because much
Game
like
Pass.
the App Store, they charge 30% to the game developer for that digital purchase.
I just mean, like, I don't know. You have 7 Xboxes laying around you can't use. Now, if there was a hack to actually just turn those into PCs, you'd be into something.
Well, I think though too, you own an NVIDIA Shield TV, and you can just throw the Steam Link app on there and call it a day. So.
Oh yeah, there's that. Damn, I need to do that. I have 2 of those things, and I haven't done that yet.
Yeah, what's up, 7 Xbox boy? Come on.
Jeez, now I don't need an Xbox. All
right. and you can sideload the Game Pass app onto your Shield TV, so you can play Game Pass games on it.
Crazy.
I know, right? So
wow,
it's a rabbit hole.
Yeah, so we were talking shit about the Stadia before, and I want to continue that. So the the thing you said, like, the bad part is that the ecosystem's kind of hollow, right? Like, your friends aren't there, and you can only play with the people. My beef with it is I'm paying full price for a game. I still have to pay $60 for that thing. So it's not, if it was like a Game Pass deal where I pay them a monthly sub and I get to play everything on the platform, I might think about that. But what it is you have to pay $60 to own the game, but you only own the game on that platform. So when Google inevitably is going to say, "Well, this didn't work out. We're shutting it down," bye, all your stuff's gone. So,
well, this is exactly the point too, and this is why Microsoft is going to make a killing. I think even Mellified posted an article that was saying that 70% of the Xbox Series X owners have Game Pass. So. Yep. And that's a huge corner of the people that got that console. I mean, can you imagine how many of those consoles sold? I mean, they were sold out. So it's just like,
yeah. Well, we know it was over 1 million units because that was the sales for the opening weekend for the 360, and they said this was the best-selling Xbox console ever. So between Xbox Series S and X, they've sold over 1 million already, and 70% of those have Game Pass.
Right. That's surprised that's why, insane.
I'm surprised why they wouldn't, like, who doesn't have Game Pass that bought the thing. And I feel like when you get that thing out of the box and you plug it in for the first time, it's like, welcome to Game Pass. You get a free 60 days before, you know, right, to get you hooked on that crack. And then it's like, oh, well, you can keep paying, or this whole library of games just goes away.
Well, you want to know how they got me hooked on this, and how they've probably got other people hooked on this with the Series X, because they did the same thing. Like 2 years ago or whatever, they were doing this deal through the Microsoft Store where you could buy an Xbox Series S or X on a payment plan, which included at the time 2 years of Xbox Gold and Xbox Game Pass before they rolled it all into one, right? And so I was like, sweet, I'll do this deal. And for like $38 a month for 2 years, I've got the top dog console and access to Game Pass and all this other stuff. I was like, sweet, this sounds like a really great deal. Boy, howdy, because then not like a year later, they did this whole, like, we're switching things up. Here's Game Pass Ultimate. You guys can get it in for $1 and apply it to your account. I paid $1 and applied that shit to my account, and now I've got Game Pass through the end of like 2023 or something like that. It's insane.
Yeah, that's pretty wild.
And it's all about, you know, getting people onto the platform, because once they do, they know it's very sticky because it's easy, it's straightforward. Going back to Stadia for a second, though, one of the interesting things that Ubisoft is doing is if you subscribe to, I guess it's Ubisoft Connect Plus now. They just changed the name of the service, so apologies if that's not quite right. That's their $15 a month, all you can eat Ubisoft Game Pass. So it's only Ubisoft games, but it is everything that Ubisoft publishes, including the Ultimate Edition of their games. So all the DLC, all the whiz-bang features. If you pay that $15 a month, you can stream all of Ubisoft's games for free on Stadia or Amazon Luna, which is Amazon's recently launched Stadia competitor. So that's when, you start to see this all kind of come together, where big publishers are now like TV channels. So I subscribe to the Ubisoft channel. I subscribe to the Blizzard channel, or Activision Blizzard channel. I subscribe to Microsoft Game Studios channel. And through a streaming service, I could get, access to all those games. You can sort of see where this could go. I just don't know, going back to what Hunter said earlier, I don't know if the internet is there for enough people to really justify this or to make this, feasible.
Okay, so you said something shocking there. The Amazon Luna, that's a competitor to the Google thing. I've never heard of that. Did you just break some news or what?
No,
because I've never heard of this.
They announced it like 2 months ago, and it was kind of a stealth launch. They're in beta, but you can go and sign up. It has it works with like all the Fire TV devices. There's an Android app, and it has a Wi-Fi enabled controller like Stadia, so you can go. The controller's talking directly to the servers. You don't have to jump through Bluetooth to another device.
Oh, so they stealth launched, but they already have an installed ecosystem because everybody that has a Fire Stick has it. So yeah.
Yep.
Now, can you bring your own controller, like any Bluetooth controller?
I believe so. You just kind of lose that Wi-Fi, latency improvement, but I believe you can do it, or will be able to do it with a Bluetooth controller. Maybe that's not enabled yet. But they're doing this deal with Ubisoft, where you pay the $15 a month to Ubisoft, and they, on the back end, I guess they must have cut a deal where Ubisoft pays Amazon some portion of that based on how much you're playing on Luna.
Oh, that's weird. So speaking of that, this is the rabbit hole that just never ends, right? So
this is we're in Inception right now. We're like layer 17 deep in the Inception.
Yeah. So talking about like back end deals and one store being on another store's platform. So the EA Game Pass is going to be on Microsoft Game Pass. Starting in December?
The console
Xbox
version, the console version's already got it.
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
on Xbox Series X launch on November 10th, they enabled it, EA Play for Game Pass console, and then it's coming December sometime for PC Game Pass.
But is that EA Play not Pro? So
Correct.
It is not Pro.
Okay, so I would still have to pay Pro to EA if I wanted Pro stuff, but I don't know what.
Still, like, even on the console, like I had it pulled up here a second ago. Like, even on the console, like, you still get access to a ton of games. Like, you get access to all of the Mass Effects, you get access to all of the Dragon Ages, you get access to all of the Crises, you get access to the Mirror's Edge games, you get access to. I mean, I'm pulling up my Xbox right now as we're talking, but like, you get access to. And the nice thing about this too is it tells you like if it's an EA Play game. So like a bunch of the Need for Speed stuff, a bunch of sports games.
Wow, that's pretty crazy.
Not the current year of the sports games. It should be noted that it's like a year behind.
Yeah, but to me that doesn't matter because it's sports ball.
I'm on the same page. Like I wouldn't even play most of those other than UFC because I like punching people in the face.
But think about this though. Like for all those people that have like this new console and their mom or dad or it's like some kid's parents who got them like a month of whatever. It's just like all of these games that they have access to. It's just obnoxious. The Dead Space games, like there are so many games available on Game Pass to just download and play. It's incredible that that's there. The one of the big ones that I was excited about, and I think a lot of people were excited about, was the original Xbox game Black, which is that shooter game.
I like that one quite a bit.
Yeah, I mean that's on there. A lot of the Battlefield games are on here. So it's like have at it.
Let me dissect that for just a second.
And Anthem, if you
they can't all be winners, man. Like
you're that one guy. that still is playing Anthem. It's like you're the one guy in the Anthem guild. So it's that I don't know, man. That game, it had potential. It had a lot of Iron Man energy that was going on, but it just for some reason, I don't know. They tried to be like Iron Man Destiny, but they forgot to put the game in there or something. But the flying, cool.
They've got a 2.0 version coming soonish that's supposed to be a complete revamp. So it'll be interesting to see if they do that. But going back for a sec, the point I wanted to make about the current year Madden not being in EA Play is that means if you're really into that game, the multiplayer community is different, right? Because you're getting the people who are a year behind. I almost wonder, though, if that's going to put pressure on EA because you're going to kind of have the split multiplayer where maybe, Madden 19 isn't such a bad bet anymore. Maybe you stick around with that for a little bit longer and skip 20 because, until it's on Game Pass, there's going to be more people to play against. So it'll be interesting to see how that works. But Hunter, you brought up a really cool point that you can go and play Black, which is an original, 1.0 OG Xbox game on the Series X or Xbox One today. And as a game preservation fan, I love this because Microsoft is pulling forward something from over 20 years ago and letting me play it on a modern console. And guess what? Not just play it, but play it the best possible version of it because they're doing AI upscaling. They're doing enhanced textures in some cases, not necessarily with Black, but in a lot of games. They're actually loading 4K textures that they've gone back to the developer and asked for the original assets to do this. And Microsoft friggin' invented AI to add HDR into games that never had it. Like, mind blown, dudes. This is HDR is one of the most revolutionary things to happen to graphics in games in the last 20 years, like since 3D, because the color fidelity is so much better, and to have that added into an old game is amazing to me.
Is that just HDR phenomenal. That you need an HDR TV to see, or is that HDR like PC games have had for a long time?
It is HDR that you need an HD TV to see.
Okay.
An HDR TV to see. Yeah.
I wonder why, like, the whiz bang G-Sync, like $700 360 hertz. Did you see they have 360 hertz monitors now? What? Yeah, 60 hertz is good enough for anybody. That should be. but anyway, yeah. So like, I'm playing on a 166 hertz, G-synced up monitor here, and I don't have HDR. Why wouldn't they put that just in the monitors? Seems strange.
It's just more, it's a more expensive panel. You have to have more technology to display all those extra colors, and to do it well, I guess, is probably the main factor.
So 12K when?
Well, I mean, we're getting 8K this generation, sort of on paper at least. I don't know. The consoles can output it.
I don't know that I can tell the difference between 4K and 8K from across the room. Like, I feel like that's a paper selling thing. Like, we just put this on the box because it'll sell stuff, but nobody will even know. They should do like a test like that. They should tell people it's 8K when it's 2K and see if anybody can actually tell side by side what's what. But the color range stuff, though, like my TV that I've got out in the living room is like way better color than any other display I've ever seen. And it's not an expensive TV. It's kind of a cheap 4K, low end. But the color just like explodes off the screen on that thing, like my PC monitors don't do, even though they're high-end PC monitors.
Yeah, it's just amazing to me. Dolby did a study where they did a blind group, and they had them look at two different TVs, and one was 1080p HDR.
How does that work, by the way, when you have a blind group looking at a TV?
Yes. Well, they're like, well, it feels kind of square.
Sorry.
Blind meaning that the participants didn't know the setup for the experiment.
Yes.
One was 1080p with HDR, the other was 4K. And like over 80% of the participants thought that the HDR set looked better, even though it was lower resolution. And so to me, that just emphasizes how profound of an improvement having HDR is on the display. And HDR in Windows is kind of a mess. I alluded to problems with streaming and stuff earlier. Trying to go from HDR to HDR doesn't always work the way you'd expect. And, you know, depending on how the games trigger HDR in Windows, some things work, some things don't. I got to tell you, on Xbox, it just works. I turn on the console. It's doing VRR, so I'm getting the G-Syncs, not quite as advanced as G-Sync, but I'm still getting the variable refresh rate technology, and it's in HDR, and it's in 4K, and I'm getting 60 frames a second. I'm in heaven. I don't know what to say.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome that they have this, and I'd really like to see more of this kind of stuff come to fruition. And I think that Microsoft's like Phil Spencer and the whole like Xbox team, like over the last year and a half to 2 years, even more longer than that, probably last like 2 to 3 years, have really been just making a whole lot of strides and a whole lot of efforts to the gaming community and gaming at large. I mean, not just for their Xbox console, which has made massive improvements since, you know, the Xbox, you know, launched, because, you know, obviously the you know, this last generation for them, their launch did not go well, but they definitely did a whole 360, no pun intended, like, you know, just turning completely around and around again, and just revolutionizing like how they do everything, especially on the PC. And like the problem with the PC market is like Windows kind of like slowly turned their back on the PC market and just solely focused on the console stuff, and they just kind of like abandoned that whole PC genre. And
yeah, it's like they were just like, well, Gabe's got that, so I guess we're not going to compete. We'll just go over here in our silo with the console. And yeah, so Phil bringing that back is, honestly, I feel like Phil's not getting the love that he deserves. He gets a little bit, but he should be like a Steve Jobs level of reverence for the gaming thing, because with the combo of Game Pass and the PC integration and all of that stuff, because it's like, okay, I buy an Xbox, I pull it out of the box, I've got this giant library of games, plus now I'm learning all the EA games that are over there, right? And this is a couple bucks a month, not a big deal. Or I get my PlayStation out, and hey, I got a PlayStation I can play Spider-Man on.
Well, like here's something that I think that, you've just hit a really good point, is like, you know, for a while there it was just like, hey Gabe, you know, you get the whole, you know, Steam thing on PC. With what Microsoft is literally doing with all this stuff is going to be such a direct competitor, and is a direct competitor with Steam. Like, this ecosystem, I mean, I know Windows needs, or Microsoft needs to work on their Windows store like a lot, like it's not good. But the fact that I can now cross-play or cross-interact from my PC to my friends on my Xbox, and a lot of games, and that games list of cross interaction is just growing. I mean, the party chat is already cross-play, but that library of games is just growing and growing and growing of who I can play with on the cross platforms. And to the fact that, like, you know, it's just that integration. So where, like, if I'm on Discord on my PC, you know, my buddy could be on his Xbox and he could be on Discord on his Xbox, or like Guilded, or like on the, you know, the integrated voice chat system. It's just like there's so much there, right? Like, I don't see, and Game Pass, I'll say it again, is the best thing in gaming today. Like, if you have an Xbox One or an Xbox Series console, Game Pass is the best deal in gaming you're ever going to find as of right now. And I think that's going to eventually start, you know, encroaching on a lot of the PC market territory, because as more and more games are going to go on Game Pass, people are probably going to start turning away from some of these other ecosystems because of where they can get their games for. They play them for free for several months before the game leaves Game Pass, and it's just like, well, I've been playing for so long with my friends over here, might as well go ahead and buy it before it leaves Game Pass, so I can keep playing with my friends. Like, that logic to me is going to start really kicking in the next year or so. Like, I guarantee it.
Yeah, and some of the stuff is going to just stay forever because it's a Microsoft first party thing. I assume
Right.
like Halo is never coming off a Game Pass.
Probably
Correct.
not.
No,
Right.
they've said straight up all Microsoft titles, which by the way, they bought friggin' Bethesda. They bought ZeniMax. So that means every ZeniMax title will be coming to Game Pass permanently.
Everything.
Doom Eternal, friggin' all the Wolfensteins, Elder Scrolls Online. Like, I could go on. There's just so much content there. It is, you know, and if you're not interested in the console thing, like if Hunter and I haven't convinced you that having an Xbox is a great companion to your PC, no worries. You can save a couple bucks and get the Game Pass for PC subscription, which is only $10 instead of $15 for Ultimate. But you lose xCloud, you lose Xbox in that downgrade.
I think, you know, in my opinion, even if you don't have a console, it's almost worth paying the $15 subscription just for the Game Pass xCloud portion of things, like for your mobile devices. You know, like when you're at home, you know, or like when you're out on the go or something like that, or you're on a trip somewhere, like, you know, just like I've got a clip and I've got an Xbox controller, and you know, I've definitely played games on my phone before, and shockingly it works. It's interesting to see, like, you know, playing Halo like on your phone. Like, that's just like that blows my mind that I'm sitting here playing Halo or like Super Lucky's Tale or like any of these other games. And, you know, yeah, it's just to me it gets into the fun territory. But I mean, if the $5 is too much to justify the streaming stuff, then by all means pay the $10 and just get the Game Pass for the PC. It is going to be worth your time.
Well, keep in mind, one of the things that Microsoft's doing is they're not just putting these games on Game Pass. In some cases, they're actually adding touch controls. So when you are playing on your phone, you don't even need the controller. So you can actually play Minecraft Dungeons. And I think it's Minecraft and Minecraft Dungeons, I know, got added recently.
And actually Super Lucky's Tale too. The new Super Lucky's Tale has touch. That's actually how I first tried it. I was like, oh, touch controls, let me try this. And I was playing the new Super Lucky's Tale on my phone with touch controls, and I was like, this shouldn't work, but it does. Like, my brain was like, this really should not be working, but it does.
Yeah, well, but I mean, that to me speaks to a company that gets it, right? They have people who are excited about what they're doing. They're like, hey, yeah, we could do touch controls, but you know what? Let's take it to the next, or we could do Game Pass and let you play the game on your phone, but we're going to take it to the next level and actually add touch controls special to make it playable on mobile. That's so cool to me.
Yeah. A couple other so I mean, we've kind of overjoyed on what Microsoft is doing. I know I don't want to seem like we're solely fanboys for just one platform. I know there's a lot of PlayStation fans out there, and the PlayStation 5 just came out, and so that's pretty exciting for folks. I do have some I'm not criticizing the games or the game qualities on Sony. I don't have any really critical things to say about that. What I do have critical to say about the PlayStation is the company and the ecosystem that they're striving for right now needs to be on par with what Microsoft is doing. They need to be competing more with Microsoft, and they're not. And I feel like that's really going to be hurting Sony's long-term goals of continuing to stay as a competitive entry into this market. There's going to be people that are going to be fans regardless, right? Because there's those games that are just exclusive that will never come off of Sony, right? Like, you're looking at your Ratchet and Clanks, for example. Like, they're coming out with a new Ratchet and Clank that looks amazing. There's going to be another Horizon Zero Dawn that's going to be on the PlayStation, but as we've seen, sometimes these games don't just stay exclusive on that platform, because Horizon Zero Dawn has come to PC, just like Death Stranding came to PC. A lot of people didn't think that they were going to, but they ended up coming there. So I mean,
are they going to start? Is Sony going to start putting first party stuff on PC though? Is going to be the thing.
I don't know. Like, I think what. So Sony has some similar stuff to what Microsoft is doing. They have similar technologies and they're doing similar things, but it's not on par. So in other words, like they do have like their game streaming stuff to where like you can stream if you have a PlayStation 4 controller, you can stream your PlayStation 4 to your PC and play. They also have their cloud streaming stuff, which is similar to the xCloud thing where you can stream from the cloud. You don't necessarily need a PlayStation 4 controller, but you lose half the games that you're able to play if you don't. The problem is both of these apps independently are $10 each, and so collectively it's like $20 for the full package, and that just seems a bit excessive.
Yeah. So I guess Sony, in order to compete, right? Because Sony had that streaming service thing where you could pay like $20 a month or whatever and play like old PS1 games and PS2 games and stuff, right? So they need to just like integrate that into their PS5, like.
Well, that's what the PS Now, or I think it's PS Now.
Yeah, PS Now is.
I mean, they need to ditch that, and I need to be able to. I need backward compatibility with the game so that I'm not playing it off a cloud streaming thing, because that sucks for all the reasons. But actually, I go in there and it's like the Microsoft store where it's like, oh, hey, I can download Black and play it. Great. Mm-hmm. Well, let's say I can pick any PlayStation 2 game ever, right? And it's just there, because they're not selling PlayStation 2s anymore, and they're not selling games anymore. But my God, they have a gold mine of classic stuff that they could up-res.
Yeah, their library is huge, and that's what I was referring to. Is I feel like what they really need to do, and this would bring me on board with Sony. Like, I would actually subscribe if Sony actually had a competitive digital marketplace offering for me to come to, because I love a lot of their games, but like I'm already so invested in my PC and I'm already so invested in my Xbox that like Microsoft I already drank their Kool-Aid, you know, and so like I want to love PlayStation and Sony, but like every time I turn around and look at what they're doing, I cannot justify it for a couple of their exclusives when I haven't been embedded in their ecosystem for so long. Now, there are people that are so embedded in their ecosystem, that's one thing. But, you know, and I can also say this, at least they're not Nintendo, where I feel like every time I get a Nintendo console, I have to like rebuy all the virtual store stuff all over again.
I was going there as soon as you got done, so you preempted me. But yes, like, why is it that I have to purchase Super Mario Brothers again? Why do I have to purchase it, period? Why am I not paying a flat fee monthly, $10 a month? I get access to every SNES game, every NES game. It's just there.
They're working on that with their online offerings. So like if you get their online thing, you get access to like their virtual NES and their virtual Super NES, which apparently is supposed to have a lot of titles in it. But at the end of the day, I mean, I know that's like $4, but at the end of the day, I need that Switch console in order to do this. And they're so lockstep into their like ecosystem that like besides their mobile apps that they've been making, which are different from their console stuff, you're never gonna see a first party, like you're never gonna see like Mario Odyssey on the PC. You're never gonna see that come to Steam or the Windows Store. You're never gonna see that on Xbox. You're never gonna see that on PlayStation. I absolutely love Nintendo's ecosystem of games. I just don't like their ecosystem of like back end design. So like,
Nintendo keeps the emulator scene alive single-handedly,
and that's true because people are already emulating the Switch. Like there's emulators for the Switch out there, and there's a handful of games that actually work on it, including Mario Odyssey of all things. You know, the Wii U is heavily emulated already. Like Breath of the Wild came out on the Wii U and the Switch, and within like 6 months they had it halfway working on an emulator.
Yeah. And within a year, they had mods in there so you could play as the guy from GTA instead of Link. And
or you could have Sonic the Hedgehog be your motorcycle or something like that. It was something stupid.
No, did you see the one instead of the mount? It was the I forget what his name was. The big dude from GTA, San Andreas, right? Yeah. And you were, instead of riding a mount, you were riding on that guy, and you had like a cheeseburger on a stick, and that's how you led him around.
Oh geez.
It's like, oh my God.
Well, I was gonna go. I was gonna fact check on a couple of things just to clarify, but it sounds like you had something else to say.
No,
Jim.
that was basically it.
Fact check us, Mellified. Fact check us.
Well, I was gonna clarify. So PS Now was originally, when it came out for PS4 era, it was all PS3 games. So that was their way of doing backward compatibility, because the PS3 hardware was so orthogonal to everything else the industry's done. There's no good emulation for it. And so PS4 eventually they wanted to enhance PS Now, so they started adding PS4 games, and they made the PS4 games downloadable. But the PS3 stuff is still exclusive to the cloud piece because of, I think, the hardware. They've lowered the price significantly on PS Now it used to be $10 a month. And that at various points it was like $10 a month if you prepaid for a year, and I think they lowered the standard price to $10 a month. But during Prime Day in October, I got a year for $40, I think it was. So, if you're interested, Black Friday coming up in a week or so, might be a good time to look around for deals on that. It's not a bad service, but Game Pass blows it out of the water, especially because you can download all those things. I was also going to point out with Nintendo's online service, they have it's like 20 to 40 games on the NES and SNES emulators each. They did do some very light touch additions to it, but it's pretty basic. And so I definitely wish that we saw enhancements like, hey, give me achievements. Hey, give me a profile that's online so I can share those achievements with my friends.
Right. Well, and to add to that criticism too, with the way they're doing it, this is also so that you can play online with people. When you were on the Wii U before, you could actually play online with people and it didn't matter. Like, you just play online.
Yeah.
And now you have to pay for their online service to play online, which I understand because of the way their ecosystem works. Like, I'm not really too critical of that. However, the thing that kind of irritates me about this is exactly what you said, is this whole like interaction with folks. If I'm not mistaken, and you can please feel free to fact check me on this, from what I understand is if you want to like be able to voice chat with these people, you have to have an app on your phone. So
yeah, there's no integrated voice chat service. They on the Switch, so you have to go out to a third party device. And if I'm going to go to a third party device, why the hell would I use Nintendo Online and not Discord or something else?
Exactly. I felt like that was shooting themselves in the foot with that one. But again, I think part of that is though for the parent portion of things, for the parent integration. Because there is the parental app type thing too, which is involved in that. So like I can kind of get that from like a standard of the parents or whatever. But like if you're an adult, you're trying to play like with your friends on the Switch, it becomes a nightmare because it's just like, man, I have to deal with this. But
what's your 16-digit friend code, Hunter?
Oh,
can you send that over to me, because
Crispus,
we want to play together? Yeah,
exactly. Oh yeah, Big Smoke. I think that's who it was. Yeah,
that was the guy. So hey, speaking of the friend code stuff, the greatest debacle that ever happened with Nintendo's Switch thing was when you had to have a separate phone app to do voice chat.
What? Did I just say that
yes.
or no?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a mess.
I'm just like, that's the worst, man. I'm just reiterating, like, how did they think that was a good idea?
Yeah, it's and what's particularly funny is if you play Fortnite on the Switch, it has integrated voice chat because it's using Epic's platform.
What?
Yeah, well, because Fortnite has its own voice chat so that you can chat with your party cross-platform, and Epic runs that, and they built it into Fortnite for Switch, so you can actually get better voice integration from third parties than you can from Nintendo as the platform holder, which is kind of pathetic.
Wow, that's pretty nuts, dude. Like I don't understand that myself. Like I think that's pretty stupid, but whatever.
Well, I think Nintendo didn't reserve system memory so that they could run this stuff as like a meta layer dashboard like PlayStation and Xbox do, because they were so interested in hitting a particular price point, they didn't want that overhead.
Right.
And
Yeah, it was just you guys were talking about the voice app thing, and it just I had this mental moment there where I went into a fugue state because I was just thinking about they had that Y splitter cable
Yeah.
that you had to hook up, and it was like, what?
Which, by the way, isn't even a Nintendo product. It's a third
No,
party
it's not.
because Nintendo didn't even give you a solution. They're just like,
Right.
figure it out. Good luck. It's such a mess. And the Switch is not a bad console. I mean, it serves its purpose, and I love that it uses micro SD cards, which are an industry standard. I can go buy up to 1 terabyte if I really want to drop the money on it. Like, they've done some smart things. Compare that with the Sony Vita, which used proprietary memory cards that were insanely expensive. So Nintendo does some stuff right, but yeah, they're kind of their own beast. And I mean, people love their games. I'm really excited. Pikmin 3 just got re-released on the Switch. It was one of the better games on the Wii U. But I'm one of the suckers who had a Wii U. Like, I really like Nintendo and their games. But
I had everything up into the Wii U myself, and then I was kind of done after that. I was laughing at myself. I was just like, oh man, the new Zelda's coming out. Are you gonna get a Switch to play it? And I'm like, but I can get it on the Wii U. Like, well,
there are persistent rumors of an unswitch, right? They've got the Switch Lite, which is just the portable version. And there are persistent rumors that there's going to be a Switch Pro or unswitch, which is just the console without the screen, which would allow them to bring the price point down or do things like, 1080p HDR. Interestingly, a lot of TVs, even if they support HDR, don't support 1080p HDR. They only support it at 4K.
You know what Nintendo is going to do is they're going to come out with a Switch that is just always docked, right? It'll just be like a console, and then they'll sell you a controller that has a screen in it, and then you can sit anywhere and play.
No. You mean like the Wii U?
Yeah, exactly. But it'll be the Switch U or the FU or something. I don't know. It'll be. No, honestly, I feel that the strongest feature of the Wii U is that it actually had a screen on the controller, because you could be like, hey, kid, get off the TV. Adults are watching something.
Yep.
Go to your room. But they didn't have to like take the console with them. They could just game on the damn controller. So that honestly was the only good solution, as opposed to like the PlayStation where you could stream to your Vita or something. It was like, okay, well, now I have to own 2 devices for this, and it kind of half works and only in certain things, right?
Well, and the Switch kind of gets you that, right? Because you can just pop it out of the dock and go, but you're sacrificing so much horsepower to get it into that portable form factor that if you had a standalone base console, you could potentially give it a lot more juice, to your point, and still come out ahead.
Okay, so here's a new rabbit hole I'm going to introduce. So whenever you design a game for the Switch, you have to design the game so that it runs in the plugged in mode, but it also is functional in the undocked mode, right? And I don't know if it's like a perceptible difference. Is it like the resolution changes? Yes, but does it also like downgrade the graphics settings like on a PC, right? It's the difference between low and high. I can visibly very much see on the screen that I've gone to low res, and low graphic feature mode. So I don't know if it does that or what, right? But then it makes me think like, okay, we're in the first multi-generation console generation now.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
So it was disturbing. I said generation like 2 times. I was trying to figure out how to get it in there a third time. And, but it's like, okay, so I have it. Well, honestly, no, it is 3, right? So I have a PlayStation 4, I have a PlayStation 4 Pro, and I have a PlayStation 5. Now, the things that run on the 5 at launch are supposed to also be compatible to the Pro and the not Pro. And if I have an Xbox One and I have an Xbox One X and then I have an Xbox Series X, they also like, so if I make a game for the new generation platform, does it have to be capable of downgrading itself, not just to run on the One X? Yeah, so it'd be the Xbox One. This is so confusing. Why do they name the damn consoles the same thing? So the Xbox Series X, One X, and then the Xbox One, right? So
Right.
if I'm on a Series X and a One, like both ends of the spectrum there, the game, like if I go buy Cyberpunk, if assuming it actually releases next month, if I go get that, and I was watching video last night where they were showing it running on an Xbox One and an Xbox Series X, like side by side, and boy, you could tell the difference, right? And it wasn't just like a ray tracing thing either. It was like you could tell the resolution was down, and one was like anti-aliased, and the other one kind of wasn't, and all the things. So I'm just wondering, like, does that make it? Now we're in a PC game problem where I have to support like multiple platforms and multiple performance arcs and stuff. So
yeah, I mean that's the reality, right? Microsoft is saying you have to support the Xbox Xbox One original, the Xbox One S, the Xbox One X, the Xbox Series S, and the Xbox Series X. 5 different consoles that all have different performance curves.
And that's why insane. Cyberpunk's delayed for the next 5 years.
Yes. But the flip side of that is, like, this is what the mobile industry has been dealing with for years. This is what the PC industry deals with when it comes to games running. And to be fair, compared to PC, I know PC developers who would kill to only have to support 5 performance characteristics, right?
Right.
I mean, it's not just machine. But it's not just that, Jim. You just listed off the Xbox stuff. That doesn't include the PlayStation consoles that are,
Well, no, I started
PlayStation 4, PlayStation 4 Pro,
and
and then PlayStation 5. But
which the thing was, and they said, right, like, well, when you get the PlayStation Pro, it doesn't mean that the games are really going to be different. You won't even notice a difference really unless you have a 4K TV, right? So the PlayStation Pro is just for people with 4K TVs. Don't worry about it. That's when that thing first came out. But then, like, the first game that came out for it, if you played it on the Pro, it was smooth frame rate. It was the difference between like a 60 and a 20 frame rate on Horizon Zero Dawn. And it was like, okay, well, that was maybe not what was advertised, I guess. I'm so glad that, because my wife went out. She's the one, it was the PlayStation 4 Pro. I didn't even want one. Like, I stopped at the Xbox 360 and the PlayStation 3, and I was like, I'm good. I'm just on PC. We're never in the living room anyway. Why invest in other consoles? Because it used to be like I got the Xbox, the PlayStation, the GameCube, right? Like all 3, because all those games were first party. You couldn't cross party them or whatever. And now it's like, okay, I got a PC, and then a game comes out on the Xbox, but it's also on the PC. So I don't need a console from Sony.
Or if you wait 6 months to a year, you'll get Horizon Zero Dawn and Death Stranding on the PC.
Right. So I don't need a PlayStation at that point. And if I'm going to get a console, it's not going to be the PlayStation, because the Xbox and the PC, same eco, right? So I don't have to buy the game twice. And okay, cool. But then why buy an Xbox because it's on the PC? Unless I specifically just want to play my PC stuff on the TV.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
So that's maybe the case for a PlayStation, is like the stuff that's not going to be on PC will be the PlayStation exclusive stuff only. Maybe.
Which has gotten very little these years, though. And that's not to downgrade the exclusive stuff, because the exclusive stuff is good.
Yeah, but it's also only exclusive Sony first party stuff mainly. Because like the new Yakuza Like a Dragon dropped on Steam the same day it came out on the PlayStation. And it's like, well, that's over.
And Xbox, by the way. It was on everything. So Game developers are realizing that if they want to make their money back on these huge, $50 million investments for AAA games, they got to reach the customers where they are.
Yeah.
And so they're putting it out on all the platforms.
So if I buy, say I'm Microsoft and I'm making the new Xbox, but it's going to be back compatible with the old Xbox. So in one hand, it's an advantage because I don't give a barrier to entry, because it's like, bring your existing library with you. Not a big deal. But also it says, hey, you don't have to run out and get this Xbox the first day, because you're still going to be playing all your old stuff just on a new console.
Well, but here's the thing, right? If as a PC gamer, right, as a primarily PC gamer, if I told you that I have a magic upgrade for your PC that cuts your loading times by 90%, doubles your frame rate, and doubles your resolution, and it's $500, I'm pretty sure you would be knocking me over to hand me the money. Right? I mean,
that's true. That's true. Yeah.
So that's what, that's the reality of the Series X. If you're an Xbox One gamer, is like, gosh, this is a great upgrade on every axis. Even the friggin' dashboard is so much better. It's really hard to go back to the Xbox One.
Are they going to bring the blades back? Because I really miss the blades.
I do too, actually. They haven't, but they did bring back themes, which was one of the launch 360 features.
Thank God.
Later.
Yes.
So it's kind of funny how these things go full circle. There was a great retcon I saw for Xbox naming that I think we need to embrace on this podcast, which is the original Xbox is the Xbox One, the 360 is the Xbox 2, the Xbox One original is the Xbox 3, the Xbox One X is the Xbox 4, and the Xbox Series is the Xbox 5, which puts us at PS5 and Xbox 5 today.
Yeah,
that makes too much sense.
I know it does, but I actually like that because it's so much easier than trying to say Xbox Series S bar X or whatever the friggin' official name is.
Like Xbox this is Phil Spencer's one failing thing. I'm sure that it wasn't his idea. I would kind of like to have been in that marketing meeting where he was banging his shoe on the desk, like, "Are you crazy to do that?" But God damn, have some mercy on grandma, because Christmas is coming, and then the kid's going to be like, "I want an Xbox." Well, which one? Well, make sure that you get the Series X, not the Xbox One S. And definitely, like, how many grandmas are going to go out there and buy like the OG Xbox One and just completely fuck that up? And the kid's going to be like, "Oh, thanks," It's like, couldn't I have got some socks and underwear or something,
Yeah.
So, in a moment of silence for all the people at GameStop, because it's going to be their last year of being relevant in any way whatsoever, because it's going to be all the people trading in all those Xbox Ones.
What's interesting about, like, just to kind of like hit on this for a second, because I don't want to like slam on at GameStop like for a whole episode, but it's really a shame like what's happened with them, because they could not figure out how to keep a corner on the market, and I feel like one of their biggest failings was to stop being a complete retro store. I know they went and they, like, you can go online now and buy some retro stuff like from their online store and they'll ship it to you. But like the whole thing that used to be appealing about GameStop and about like you go into any like, mom and pop retro store today that you can find, and they are like way cooler, right, than any GameStop, in my opinion. Like they're at least if you find some of the good ones, because they'll have kiosks, like they'll have gaming kiosks, like retro console kiosks that you can go up to and play games. And they have like there's one in Charlotte, North Carolina, that actually has a really cool, like, they've got some of those like sit down Japanese style like fighting game arcades that are like there that you can go and play, and some like, so it's not just like the retro consoles, but they actually have stuff that's there that's engaging and interactive, as where, now that Think Geek is kind of like a holder of GameStop, that's just like it's halfway Think Geek and then halfway, games that you trade in brand new, and it's just like, well, here's $5 for it, and they turn around and sell it for 50, and you're just like, well, hold on.
Yeah, it's like the last time I walked into a GameStop, it was half Funko Pop vinyl things.
Right.
It was just like, it's not even the good stuff from ThinkGeek is in there. It's just like the Funko Pop store. Oh my God, no. Please.
Well, so here's the interesting thing, and maybe you guys saw this, but Microsoft signed a deal with GameStop where GameStop's going to be using like Microsoft tablets and Microsoft Azure for all their back-end systems and email and all that stuff. So like there's that side of the deal. But the seemingly crazy thing to me is that Microsoft is paying GameStop a percentage, undisclosed percentage, of future digital sales for every Xbox that GameStop sells.
That's berserk.
So that means that if you buy a console at GameStop, Hunter, and then you go online, you buy every single game from Microsoft through the digital store, GameStop is still getting a couple bucks on that. Like, I'm still trying to wrap my head around what that means for GameStop long term, because I sure as shit wouldn't be selling the PlayStation 5 all digital edition if I were GameStop.
I think that it's like the only reason you would do that is to keep them on life support until they get really cheap and you can acquire them, and then just open an Xbox store in their place or something.
Maybe
it'll be like the Microsoft store, except they pop up everywhere. Like every street corner's got a Microsoft store.
Well, they shut down all the Microsoft stores, or they're going to. Like they're closing them all up.
Yeah, but that's the plan, right? Because then they're going to become the GameStop real estate.
No, I think 2020 has also kind of shown like certain things are just going purely online. The nice thing about what happened with the Microsoft closure is that they were able to retain most of the employees, or offer their employees like positions in like that you don't have to be at the retail location to do. So that was kind of a nice thing. But we can kind of start going ahead and closing this one out for our first episode. There's been a few game updates and announcements we can touch on briefly, like Star Wars Squadrons. No one ever thought they were going to see additional content added, but boy howdy, are they adding content, and they're adding the content that we wanted. Being
it's almost like they read Reddit or something.
Yeah, but I mean, just like you're launching a multiplayer, like heavily focused game, and you don't put in private lobbies or the ability to run tournaments. That what kind of dumb is that? So that's finally coming out, along with a couple of new ships that you can fly and so on and so forth. So yeah, I think by the end of the year, that stuff's all going to be in. So
I think the most EA thing that could happen is they'll be like, yeah, private lobbies with your EA Game Pass
subscription.
Yeah. If you're paying for the EA Play Pro, then you get the private lobbies in the Star Wars game.
So that's
terrible.
That's one of the bigger gaming news that I think of, that I just like. It's shocking, like how much people like Jim and myself were just like screaming like, we need this content, and there's been so many others out there, and we keep getting shocked by all like the shills on YouTube. They're like, this game's great, it's gonna be great for years to come. And it's just like, but it's not until they add something new. And well, here it is. They finally have added something new. So
yeah, because
whenever they weren't going to, too.
Yeah.
Well, that was the thing. Like out the gate, they're like, no DLC, no nothing ever. We're done. We've moved on. It's like, thanks for buying our game. Bye. And it was like the guys on launch day are like, we're gonna start doing tournaments. And it's like, well, how are you gonna do tournaments? Well, we're gonna all just kind of hit launch at the same time and hope.
Well, the rule set was is each team plays for 3 hours straight, and then you tally up how many wins your team got for in those 3 hours. And it's just like, what? How is that? That's not a good metric for anything. No. Anyway.
Yeah.
Well, they went into the dictionary and changed the definition of the word tournament because it's 2020, right? And everything is kind of liquid now.
Oh boy. I'm excited. I'm glad they saw the light, right? At the end of the day, however we got there, I'm glad that we're getting these features and the new content, and I hope it continues to improve. Like, I hope they realize there's an appetite for this stuff, because clearly there is.
Yeah. Well, all right, guys. Final thoughts. Jim, what are you playing these days?
I'm installing Halo 4 right now.
Nice.
You want to play some Halo 4?
Yeah, we can play some. I got it installed.
Yeah,
What about-
and if you're listening to this, you can not play Halo 4 with us because we won't be playing it. Whenever.
Yeah, we'll
it's not the live show.
Yeah, we're save live shows for special occasions. Mellified, what are you playing these days?
I've been working my way through AC Valhalla quite a bit. I'm not super far into it, but I've been enjoying it.
Did you finally exhaust all the content in Disgaea 5?
No, I'm still working through Disgaea 3, which I had to pull out my PS TV to play because Disgaea 1, 2, 4, and 5 are on Steam, but not 3. And it's funny because 3 is actually one of the better ones, so you'd think NIS America would get on that, but I still have that on my back burner. I actually started playing weirdly Fuser. I don't like music games generally. I'm just not coordinated that way. I had friends that would just trash on, Rock Band and Guitar Hero back in the day. But it's never been my scene. And I actually really having fun with Fuser. It's if you're familiar with Drop Mix, it's kind of like Drop Mix without all the hardware and the cards. It's just you get a bunch of songs, you bring your crate as your DJ, whichever songs you've picked, and you do a set. And you can go through like a kind of basic campaign, but you can also just sort of freestyle it and have fun with music and like combine different songs. And one of my it's just fun, and it's just neat to see what you can create. So I'm really enjoying it. It is not cheap. Right now, if you want all of the 100 or so songs, you need to buy the game VIP version, which is $100, and that gets you like 60 songs, 70 songs, I think. And then they have a season 1 pass that is another 50, and the first couple songs from that are out, and they're going to be releasing more every week.
So is there something special about the song that it let's say they built the game where it was like, take any MP3 on your machine, we'll scan your music library and suck it in here? Or is it more like Rock Band where the song actually had to have like the guitar notes integrated into it, so they had to do work to it? Or are they selling you the song for $1?
No, well, they're $2 each.
Even better.
Yeah, they break the song into its components. So the drum line, the bass guitar, the lead guitar, the vocals for rock, pretty typically. Depending on the song, those might change. Either, in some cases there's 2 different drum lines. In some cases there's a trumpet or like a horn section or one Amy Lee's band. I can picture the cover of the album. I can't think of the name of it, but like that has a violin section. So every song gets up to 4 sections, and you drop those individually to remix it. So you could bring in the bass line from one song and the vocals from another, and it auto tunes the vocals so they match the music. Like, it all sounds as good as it can. The fact that Rick Astley's Never Gonna Give You Up is one of the songs is one of my favorite things about the game.
That's a blessing and a curse, isn't it?
Yeah, well, you can always, Rickroll in the middle of your set and just have some fun with it. So
does it allow like triggering and I don't mean like, triggering, but because when you're talking about Rickrolls, you have to be specific. But like, could I actually like sample a chunk of vocal and then trigger that in whenever I want to? Like, I'm super cool freestyle and DJ, like making up my own shit kind of thing. Or do you have to just deal with their stings and stuff that they put in?
It's like you bring in the vocal line into the mix, so you can pop it out or bring in a different vocal line on top and replace the original one whenever you want, but you don't necessarily have a preview to know where in the song the vocal line is.
Oh,
because
okay.
it's just kind of playing on a giant loop. So that's
Gotcha. Because I was watching a guy play it, and I noticed like he wasn't like listening to the track before he didn't
Right.
have to sync it or beat match it or anything. It was just like just grab it and drop it on there, and it just works, right?
They do that on purpose. There is like the concept of dropping it in on the downbeat or at specific times, and that kind of they walk you through all that in the tutorial. It's not bad. It's basically just timing. But they kind of break every song up into, measures, and so it's at the end of the measure that you're dropping it in for sanity's sake, I guess. But yeah, I mean, it's super, super interesting, fun little diversion. It just kind of lets me shut my brain off, have some fun with music. There's a lot of songs on there that I don't know, and there are a lot of songs that I love. So, Groove is in the Heart by Delight was one that I picked up in the season pass, and I was like, that's my signature song right there. Boom. Do it. So I was having fun with it, and my wife was just laughing uproariously at my little avatar, like dancing around and doing his DJ moves on the screen. So I may or may not have been doing those DJ moves myself in the chair while I was playing. I'm not going to confirm or deny that.
That's why you need to stream with a webcam. So
that was probably more of an answer than maybe you were hoping for.
No, that's fine.
It makes me hopeful for it to find out that D-Light is in there, because it's like, yeah, that's my favorite era of music. Like unless you want to go back into the 70s with Golden Earring and shit, but it's like for my dance club phase, right? It's like that's where it was. Like you give me like D-Light and maybe like Mr. Vane in there, and then I can work from this. So,
yeah, well, they had like an Ace of Base song. There was there's a couple different country tunes that kind of surprised me in there. There was a lot of like X gonna give it to you, hip hop stuff, but there's some Latin, there's some R&B. They have a really good broad selection of music, which I appreciated, because it's not all just club dance stuff.
Is that like the S rank boss fight at the end of the game? Is you have to mix a mariachi band with the Daft Punk and make it work?
But one of the reviews pointed this out that I read on the game, and I think it's really profound. The game has no idea if the music you're making is actually good, right? Because it sounds okay, sort of, because it's all the correct notes mechanically, because it's all auto-tuned together. But you can make some really bad music with this. You can also make some really cool stuff. So that's kind of the fun and the horror of it. But the game just rewards you on the mechanical. Did you drop the bass line in at the right time?
Yeah, but since it doesn't force you to do beat matching and stuff like that, and you don't have to sync the tracks, you can't have a true train wreck.
I'll try to record some of my worst creations, and we'll debate that on a future podcast. How's that?
There you go.
Challenge accepted.
That's awesome. Well, as for me, I've been playing. I've actually been going back and playing through Zelda Wind Waker. That was actually one of the Zelda games that I've not actually played through. So I've played through most of them, and so that was one that I haven't gone through. So I've been going back.
Are you playing it on the GameCube, or are you like DOS or Dolphin MU, that thing, or what?
Well, I own like 3 different versions of the game physically, so I've got it emulated on my Dolphin emulator, and so I've been playing through that, and it's been pretty nice. As I'm actually playing it through the Simu emulator, because it's the Wind Waker HD version.
So that's such a great game.
It is, and I've been really, really enjoying it. So I've been going through that. And again, this is this is me doing it legally. Like I own real copies of it. So
one of the stats that I love from the early Switch era was that they talk about penetration or sales of games relative to the number of consoles, and Breath of the Wild sold over 100% penetration because it was so hard to get a Switch, but people got the game anticipating when they get the Switch. So they actually had sold more copies of the game than there were systems at one point.
Oh, that's interesting.
Was that mostly in Detroit?
So I played I've been playing through that, and I've also been doing a lot of like Sea of Thieves and a bunch of other stuff on the PC, and I've been dabbling a little bit in some Forza Horizon 4, which is a lot of fun. Really kind of been falling back in love with my Xbox One X now that I've got this new Elite Series 2 controller, which is actually really nice. So shout out to whoever got me that. And but yeah, so this has been our first episode, guys. I really appreciate everybody who's taken an interest and listened. If you've listened this far, then thank you for sticking through it. We plan on definitely moving forward with more episodes in the future with more different types of segments and sections, but it's really just us to talk about current events in gaming and what's going on in our community. And so really wet behind the ears, and we're really excited about it. What you got, Melified?
I was going to throw out, so I am going to gift you guys a game, and what I would like us to do is find some time to play it multiplayer and talk about it on an upcoming podcast.
Okay, but only if we get to do an entire episode on Bee Simulator.
I'm not sure I'm ready to commit to that. I gotta
Bee
say.
Simulator is ridiculous. It's just watch some gameplay video of that thing.
There's an indie developer I know who made a game called Hive Time, which is actually a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's on itch. I have that. I haven't gotten around to it, but I have it installed to play.
I've had a nice chat with the developer. He's a really cool guy, so it's a fun one.
Yeah, and by the way, I'm not dissing on Bee Simulator. I'm actually like shocked. Like I played a little bit of it last night, and I was just like, "This game is shockingly lit." For
nice. I saw that it was coming out, but I haven't tried it. So
yeah, and it's so G-rated. Like I was doing obnoxious things, right? Like you're flying around, and I'm just discovering the game. So it's tutorializing me at the beginning. So it hasn't even talked about like I have a stinger or anything yet. But I'm a bee. I know I got. So I'm playing this, and my wife's watching me play this, and she's like, "Hey, can you sting that kid over there?" And I flew over, and I was like stinging this kid on the forehead. She's like, "How come you're not dead? Like you only get one shot, right?" And it's like, well, some concessions were made for what. But then they're having like a party in the park, and I realized like. Well, they had like balloons floating, tied up around the party. And I was just like, I wonder if I can pop those balloons with my stinger. And I could. And it was just like, wow, the game didn't really react to it. It just let me do it, no positive or negative to it. But it was just like, okay, that's so dumb that it's great.
That's awesome.
All right. Something to look forward to.
For sure. Well, yeah, this has been episode 1 of the OtherWorlds GG Community Cast. You guys can find us over on gilded.otherworlds.gg, and we'll see you guys out there. Thanks for listening.
Woo, thank you.